Hi everybody, stay thriving. Welcome back to another video. Today I will be talking about Dandelions. I will be going over my thoughts about the book and just a review, overall rating. Just a warning, if you haven't read the book yet, this might not be the best video to watch. This is more for the people who've already read it and would like to have a discussion about the book. Overall, I would rate this book a 6.5 out of 10. This is a book that I definitely feel like I personally have to reread or read very slowly to fully understand the nuances, because the book is very subtle and it's also not very eventful. So some of the parts of the book I did tend to tune out. After reading other people's interpretation and perspective, I did develop more of my own perspective of this book. So let's get into some of the other reviewers and their thoughts. Andrew Hungate pointed out that we never hear from Iniko. He explains that she remained invisible to us, a reflection of her disease. I have a different interpretation than what Andrew said. I feel like the author made her invisible, meaning all of the events are told through her mother or Kano, because the author is trying to reflect how society views those with mental illness. So it's more of a reflection of how we view those with mental illness as being invisible and without voice. One point that I wanted to bring up and to see other people's thoughts, the book talked a lot about Iniko's father's death, but it doesn't really make it very clear to me how he died. It's referred to as an accident, but there's some suggestions that it could have been a suicide. There's also some suggestions that it could have been somehow related to Iniko and she may have contribute to it somehow, but it's left unclear and largely left up to the reader's interpretation, if you ask me. And the reason why I say there's some hints of it potentially being a suicide is because throughout the book, Iniko's mother did mention mental health concerns and reflected on where the father said that he was gonna commit suicide, but a girl saved him. She didn't know who that girl was. To me, there was also some suggestive part that Iniko potentially could have contributed to it, because Iniko's mother started talking about how someone had the same condition that Iniko had. The condition that Iniko had was somanosia. I think that's how you pronounce it. Somanosia is when objects and people become invisible to the person. And in the story that Iniko's mother talked about, where somebody had the same condition of somanosia, her baby became invisible to her and she ended up accidentally killing the baby. As we go through the story, Iniko's mother does state that Iniko had somewhat of a blackout, or some parts became invisible to her during the day that her father died, because Iniko was with him. So it's unclear if she may have somehow contributed to it due to her condition. There's also questions of if the father committed suicide and maybe her condition developed from maybe witnessing it. It is left unclear, so I'm not sure. Tell me y'all's thoughts in the comments below. I also do wonder if one of the points that the author wants the reader to pick up on is that a person's triggering events or stressful events is largely dependent on the person and their perspective. The book makes a big point of perspective. The power of perspective, or what a person finds important, is dependent on the person. We see this like almost immediately in the conversation between Iniko's mother and Kanu, because Kanu notices a white rabbit, which Iniko's mother doesn't notice, whereas Iniko's mother noticed a weeping tree, whereas Kanu didn't. So they both found different things important and noticed different things on their walk. Another reason that I forgot to mention in the video why I think that this book was highlighting the importance of perspective, we don't get a clear understanding of what triggers Iniko. It seems like it's kind of random to us, but maybe that was what the author's point was. I think that us as the readers not being able to definitively pick up what Iniko's triggers or stressful events that cause the somanosia is pointing to the fact that what somebody considers stressful or triggering is largely dependent on their perspective. And I think that's a major point that the author wanted us to pick up on. Another reviewer that I read, website reviewer, is called Thoughts on Papyrus. This person pointed out that the book focused on how we sometimes don't see everything clearly, but we still can draw inferences. And I think that is an important part that I did miss initially until I read this person's review. Aniko's mother was recounting a time where Aniko was playing ping pong and she couldn't see it, and it led to her blacking out. But Aniko said that she could still hit the ping pong because she had played it so much, she can kind of make inferences on where the ping pong was going to be. Another example that Thoughts on Papyrus pointed out was the bell ring. Each person at the institution would hit the bell, but they were told that Aniko was going to be able to hit the bell at a specific time, and they felt like they could tell that it was Aniko based on how the bell was being rung. Essentially, what the website Thoughts on Papyrus was saying was that we can make inferences based on people's small behaviors or seemingly meaningless behaviors, because hitting a bell, you wouldn't think that you would be able to tell who's ringing it or very much from hearing the sound. But I think this book largely is also talking about grief, suicide / loss can affect those that are left behind. We're going to circle back now to the mental health concerns that are kind of highlighted in the book from Aniko's mother with the father. He claims that a girl saved him from a suicide attempt, which is suggestive of him struggling with mental health. And I do wonder if the girl that was referred to might have been Aniko. Maybe he was considering suicide, but then he thought about his little girl and he reconsidered it. I think another main point that the book is main theme that the book is trying to point out is how we always try to find someone to blame. And in the book, there's a lot of discourse where there's back and forth between Aniko's mother and Kanu about events occurring just as fate, meaning it is what it is, it's going to occur anyway, versus accountability in how things are occurring and for loved ones to do something. So an example of this theme or concept that I'm talking about, Aniko's mother blames herself a lot for Aniko's father's death. Kanu calls Aniko's mother's thoughts strange, and I'm gonna quote what's said in the book. That's a pretty conceited sense of fate, if you ask me. A very self-centered take on karma or destiny. If that's really how you see things, mother, then shouldn't you blame the fact that you and father were born the same age? All that together is what caused father's accident. In a distant way, yes, but still, if you follow the chain of regrets to the end, that's where you'll end up. I think that we see the back and forth between Aniko's mother talking about accountability and the role that we play towards our loved ones' mental health and their well-being. And I think ultimately the author's perspective, at least, is that we do take a pretty large personal responsibility in the mental health and well-being of our loved ones. I think that that's depicted first off because they're institutionalizing Aniko. It seems like there's a lot of regret also in institutionalizing her, and Kanu kind of points out, that they should go back so that she doesn't feel lonely and things like that. So I think the author is trying to also point out like personal responsibility to make sure you're also there for the person, making sure you're there for your loved ones that might be suffering with these different mental health conditions. Overall, I think that this is a good book, but I just think that it's very into the details, and the meaning are also in the details. I do have a couple questions for you guys, so if you guys can let me know, because there's some parts of the book that I still just didn't completely have an opinion or fully grasp. For example, why do you think that the father's death is referred to as an accident? Do you think that it genuinely was an accident, Or do you think that it could have been a suicide, a murder? Like, come on, tell me what your thoughts are. And then also, what do you think about the ending and like its meaning? Like, I don't fully grasp the ending's meaning. It says, I'll quote, you know, the last few lines. She couldn't see Canoe either way, but when her eyes closed on their own accord, she felt as if she could still see him. And when he shut her eyes for her after she had stopped seeing him, then she felt that she really wasn't able to see him. If you guys could answer those questions below. Thank you guys for watching. The next book that I am reading, so stay tuned for my review, is Firstborn Girls. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.